Have you ever wondered what the cruelest punishment in ancient Rome was? Something so harsh, so brutal, it left a permanent scar on history and haunts our imagination even today? Well, you're about to find out. We're diving deep into one of the darkest chapters of Roman justice, a punishment so cruel and terrifying that it was designed to break the spirit, body, and soul. If you think modern punishments are tough, wait until you hear this. Stick with me because this story is about more than just pain. It's about fear, power, and control in one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. Ancient Rome is famous for many things: massive armies, incredible engineering, epic battles, and powerful emperors. But behind all that glory, there was a darker side. The Roman legal system was strict and unforgiving. They believed in law and order above all else, and their punishments reflected that. If you broke the law, especially serious laws, you could face some of the most cruel penalties ever recorded. Today, we're focusing on the single cruelest punishment a Roman could face. This punishment wasn't just about ending a life. It was designed to humiliate, to terrorize, and to send a chilling message to anyone who might think about breaking the rules. It was a punishment so brutal that it still shocks historians and readers alike. So, what exactly was this punishment? Who got it? And what made it so terrifying? Let's dive in and uncover the truth behind the cruelest punishment ever given to a Roman. To understand why this punishment was so terrible, we need to start by understanding the Roman justice system. Rome was a vast empire, and keeping control over millions of people required a strong legal system. Romans created a complex network of laws that covered everything from theft and murder to political crimes and rebellion. Courts would decide the guilt or innocence of an accused person, and judges would decide the punishment based on the crime. One thing is clear: Romans didn't believe in mercy for serious offenders. Their punishments were often harsh and public, meant to scare people into obedience and show the power of the Roman state. But it wasn't just about punishment. The legal system was also a tool for maintaining social order. Rome was a society built on strict hierarchies: patricians, plebeians, slaves, freedmen, and laws were designed to keep these groups in their places. Punishments often reflected the social status of the criminal. A wealthy Roman citizen might receive a lighter sentence than a slave or foreigner for the same crime. Not all punishments were equal. Let's look at some common punishments used in Rome, which set the stage for the cruelest one. Flogging. This was a brutal whipping, sometimes leaving deep wounds and scars. It was painful but often served as a warning or a punishment short of death. Soldiers who disobeyed orders or slaves who misbehaved might be flogged publicly, to shame them and warn others. Exile. Being forced to leave the city or empire was a serious penalty. Rome was a center of power and culture. To be exiled meant losing status, home, and protection. Sometimes exile was voluntary. Other times, it was forced, with harsh conditions preventing the person from returning. Death by animals. This was both punishment and entertainment. Criminals were thrown to wild beasts like lions or bears in arenas to be killed in front of cheering crowds. This spectacle was designed to thrill the audience but also to terrify anyone considering crime. Crucifixion. Probably the most infamous Roman execution, crucifixion was slow, painful, and humiliating. Victims were nailed or tied to a wooden cross and left to die over hours or days. It was reserved for slaves, rebels, and non-citizens, a punishment meant to disgrace as much as kill. Beheading. For Roman citizens, beheading was considered a more honorable and quicker death, sometimes used for soldiers or noble criminals. This contrasts with the other punishments, which were deliberately drawn out and cruel. These punishments tell us a lot about Roman values: respect for order, the importance of social status, and the desire to control through fear. Now, let's focus on the cruelest punishment of them all: damnatio ad bestias, meaning condemnation to the beasts. This was a death sentence that combined extreme physical suffering with deep psychological terror. Picture this. You're brought into a massive arena like the Colosseum, thousands of people are watching, waiting for the show to start. You have no weapons, no armor, no chance to defend yourself. Then the gates open and wild animals, lions, bears, leopards, are released. Your fate? To be torn apart by these beasts in front of the entire city. But why was this punishment so feared? Because it was more than just death. It was public torture, humiliation, and a reminder of the absolute power the state held over your life. This wasn't a quick or merciful death. The victim would often suffer for a long time, struggling against the animals. The crowd would cheer as they watched the fight unfold, making it both a spectacle and a form of public humiliation. Victims were sometimes stripped naked, making them more vulnerable and adding to their shame. The public nature of the execution was designed to humiliate the person and their family, showing that Rome had total power over them. The cruelty was both physical and mental. Victims faced extreme fear, knowing death was coming, yet forced to endure the slow agony of attack. Their screams and struggles were entertainment for the Roman people. In some cases, the animals might be trained to maul but not kill immediately, prolonging the suffering for the crowd's pleasure. Other times, the condemned might be chained or weighted down to prevent escape, increasing the hopelessness of the situation. Damnatio ad bestias was reserved for the worst criminals or enemies of Rome. This included slaves, especially rebellious slaves or those accused of serious crimes. Slaves were seen as property, and this punishment was meant to show other slaves what happens if they disobey. Christians. Early Christians often refused to worship the Roman gods or the emperor. This defiance was seen as a political threat, and many were sentenced to die in the arena to discourage the spread of Christianity. Traitors and political enemies. Anyone who threatened the emperor or the empire could be condemned to this brutal fate. By targeting these groups, the Romans made damnatio ad bestias a powerful tool of control and intimidation. This punishment wasn't just about getting rid of criminals, it was a political and social tool. Public executions reminded citizens and slaves who was in charge. The arenas were places of entertainment but also places of warning. Watching a human being destroyed by wild beasts was a chilling reminder of the consequences of crime and rebellion. Emperors used these spectacles to show their power and keep people afraid and obedient. The punishment also served as a way to unite the public. Watching the show together, Romans felt a shared sense of control over chaos and disorder. The use of damnatio ad bestias also reflected the Romans' views on justice and the human body. The destruction of the body in such a brutal way was thought to affect the soul and honor of the condemned, forever marking them as outcasts even after death. Imagine the fear and hopelessness of the condemned. No escape. No mercy. The roaring of the crowd. The terrifying growls of the animals. This fear was intentional. The punishment was designed to break a person's spirit before death. The public humiliation, the pain, and the horror all combined to make damnatio ad bestias the cruelest fate imaginable. The psychological torment often lasted longer than the physical pain, making this punishment truly brutal. For the victims, this wasn't just an execution, it was a form of living death, waiting for the moment when the beasts would strike. Many must have experienced intense terror and despair, which was exactly the point. One of the most famous groups to face this punishment were the early Christians during the reign of Emperor Nero. Nero blamed Christians for the Great Fire that destroyed much of Rome. Many Christians were arrested and thrown to the beasts for refusing to renounce their faith or worship Roman gods. These events became powerful stories of martyrdom that spread across the empire, inspiring others and ultimately helping Christianity grow despite the persecution. Another example is the aftermath of the slave revolt led by Spartacus. After his defeat, many captured slaves were sentenced to damnatio ad bestias to crush any hope of future revolts. Roman writers like Tacitus and Suetonius recorded these brutal punishments, often with a mix of horror and fascination, showing how deeply they impacted Roman society. The cruelty of damnatio ad bestias left a lasting mark on history. As Christianity became the dominant religion in Rome, these brutal punishments faded away. But the memory of them stayed, influencing how later societies thought about justice and cruelty. This punishment is often remembered as one of the darkest moments of Roman history, a symbol of the dangers of absolute power and the cruelty rulers can use to maintain control. Later European monarchs and rulers sometimes looked back on Roman punishments as warnings or lessons, both to avoid such cruelty or to use similar public spectacles to control their own populations. When we look back at ancient Rome, it's easy to get caught up in the grandeur, the mighty armies, towering buildings, and remarkable inventions. But beneath that shining surface lies a harsh reality, a society ruled by fear, control, and brutal punishments. Among these punishments, damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to the beasts, stands out as the cruelest of all. It was more than just a method of execution, it was a carefully designed spectacle meant to humiliate, terrorize, and break the human spirit in the most public and painful way possible. This punishment reveals a lot about Roman values and their approach to power. The Romans didn't just want to kill criminals or enemies, they wanted to send a clear message to everyone watching. Order was everything in the empire, and anyone who dared threaten that order faced unimaginable consequences. The slow, agonizing death in front of thousands was a warning. Disobedience, rebellion, or betrayal would not be tolerated. Yet, even in the face of such cruelty, history shows us stories of courage and faith. Early Christians who faced the beasts refused to give up their beliefs, becoming symbols of hope and resistance. Slaves and rebels who were condemned remind us that human spirit often fights back, even in the darkest moments. So why does this matter today? Because history is never just about the past. It's about understanding how power works, how societies can be shaped by fear, and how people resist oppression. The story of the cruelest punishment ever given to a Roman is a reminder to look closely at justice, mercy, and humanity. If this story has opened your eyes or sparked your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue exploring history's deepest truths, raw, real, and unfiltered. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to share more with you soon.